Okay, here we go yet again. This is the Midnight Skeptic, and here is my play-in music. You are listening to KPCA LP, Petaluma, California, at 103.3 FM and worldwide at www.kpca.fm. And this is the Midnight Skeptic. The views of the Midnight Skeptic are not necessarily the views of KPCA or any of its affiliates. Okay, let's get going on this. The Midnight Skeptic Show number 104 coming at you. And this will be broadcast on KPCA LP 103.3 FM this coming Sunday, the 22nd at the usual time, 9 p.m. Pacific Petaluma time, which would be midnight back on the East Coast. For all the people that are staying up with bated breath to listen to me, come to them at midnight on the East Coast. Today is Martin Luther King Jr. holiday. It's Monday, and I'm getting kind of an early jump on recording for this week. Because I can, and I'm not doing anything else, and I've taken all these voluminous notes about what I want to say on today's show, and it should be a good one. Okay, I got to remind you all, of course, the Midnight Skeptic is proudly woke, and this is my new tagline. I'm going to say this on every show. And I'm helping to rid this country of GOP MAGA Head Republicans, one broadcast at a time. Hopefully, I will soon have some rainbow-colored T-shirts to this effect. It's going to say... The Midnight Skeptic, KPCA 103.3 FM, 9 p.m. on Sundays, is proudly woke in rainbow colors, I hope. I hope that's not too expensive to do that, but I'm going to try. And then I'll just send them out to my viewers and listeners out there that, or anybody that asks for one. I'm easy. Okay. Send all hate mail and death threats to themidnightskeptic@gmail.com. I'll get it, and then I'll deal with it like it should be dealt with. Okay. We here in Petaluma are experiencing a couple of day dry spell. The Warriors won today back in Washington, D.C. against the Washington Wizards. And most importantly, the 49ers won on Saturday, and they are into the second round of the playoffs. Go Brock Purdy. He's an inspiration for a lot of people. There was a girl, I don't know exactly how old she was, but she was middle school aged, being interviewed on Sports Wrap, on one of our late night news shows that has a sports segment. She was with her dad, and she was wearing a Brock Purdy jersey. And the sportscaster on Sports Wrap, stuck a microphone in her face and said, "Is he your hero now?" And she said, "Yes, I know what it feels like to be chosen last. Well, that kind of touched me, but okay. Shout outs. The State of the Free Press 2023 by Mickey Huff and Andy Lee Roth of Project Censored is now available. Go to projectcensored.org and order yourselves a copy. They say that they're giving out signed copies of the book for people that order it right away. Mickey and Andy, they might forget how to sign their names if you don't go there right now. So if you want a signed copy, do it now. Okay, locally, Tom Gaffey, manager of the Phoenix Theater here in Petaluma, and John Crowley, the owner of the Aquas Cafe, kind of a community within a community here in Petaluma. Nariman, Keith and Cody, Tom and Nancy, Kevin and Lori up in Cotati, Rich and Kathy over in Sebastopol, Dennis and Megan and Tiburon, San Francisco, Yvonne Santos, Pacifica, Stan and Kathy, and Susan the Lefty Miller. Down in L.A., Jackie Kolar and her two daughters, Samantha and Melanie, occasionally they tune in or watch. I'm not sure how they get it. They probably do it on YouTube. Arizona, Karina Hilliard. I haven't mentioned her in a while. I keep forgetting to, but she's the animal control officer down in Patagonia, who would be called if you wake up some morning and find a rattlesnake or a diamond head curled up in your kitchen. She's the one who will remove them. Okay, lost my notes. Over in Arizona. Okay, I was doing that, wasn't I? Karina Hilliard, my brother Brandon and Mina, their daughter Andrea, who is my niece, and she's a nurse there. Take care of yourself, Andrea, and her husband Tim, and the three little terrorists. Okay, Arkansas, Shannon Reed, Florida, Amelia, and Nelson and Alice. North Carolina, in the Raleigh-Durham area, Dr. Dave Rubin, lung doctor extraordinaire. Up to Long Island, Geraldine Goldfinger, and then the Sonora Gang, Robert and Colleen, Bob and Sandy, Brad and Martha. Martha, take care of yourself, wear your PPE. COVID is coming back in a new iteration. Okay, Darrell, Judy, Leonidas, Kathy Francis, Lynn Quayle, and John Gleason, and his two daughters, Tiffany and Jennifer, and then all the way down to Mexico City, Rosamalia Lopez Negrete. Okay, that's the shout-outs, and we're only 10 minutes into the program. I'm having to keep my eye on this recording time clock on the bottom of the screen because it screwed up, or maybe it was me that screwed up 2 shows ago, and I was cut off early. I don't know why. Doesn't matter. Okay. I have a sad news here. In memoriam, the passing of the Skeptic. Her name is Harriet Hall. She's a longtime contributor to the Skeptical Inquirer magazine that I've been subscribing to for, 25 years or so. And she also writes columns for Skeptic magazine, which is a different thing. And I think Skeptic magazine is going to be put on hold for a while. Michael Shermer, who was the godfather of the Skeptic magazine down in L.A. The Skeptical Inquirer is back in Amherst, New York. Okay. And Skeptical Inquirer is put out by CFI, the Center for Inquiry, which is an umbrella organization for a lot of humanistic and skeptical and scientific groups. Okay, I'm off my notes again. And a book that Harriet Hall wrote was Women Aren't Supposed to Fly. Well, the title of that book is relating back to the fact that she was a career flight surgeon in the Air Force, our Air Force. And after she retired from the Air Force, she became a family medical practitioner and pediatrician. And her columns that she wrote for both those magazines concerned themselves with complementary and alternative medicine, largely quackery. Okay, and I'm going to riff about that just about a little bit. Okay, now there's a new term in medical circles floating around. It's called functional medicine. Sounds impressive, right? It's not. Okay, it's just a new term that was coined by this guy, Jeffrey Bland, B-L-A-N-D. He's nothing but a supplement salesman, and each functional medicine provider defines that term differently. It was called, right before that, CAM, complementary and alternative medicine. In the 70s, it was called alternative medicine. I skipped over one term here. Right before functional medicine, it was called, impressively, they hope, integrative medicine. They keep coming up with these terms to make it sound legitimate. It's not. Okay. If you go to a doctor and they say, well, I practice integrative medicine, I hope that there's red flags raised more than in your average Chinese military parade. Turn around and walk away. Okay? Okay, I'm jumbled here. My notes are not quite as organized as they should be. Okay, integrative medicine. Okay, before integrative medicine, it was called complementary and alternative medicine. In the 70s, it was just called alternative medicine. Before that, fringe medicine, folk medicine, and then ultimately quackery. Okay, one of the big bugaboos that Harriet Hall wrote about were things such as acupuncture, no good, don't use it. Homeopathy, completely bunk. Naturopathy or naturopathy, I'm not quite sure about that pronunciation. Chiropractic, healing touch, and Reiki. And then here's something that might get me in trouble a little bit. I don't care. Osteopathic medicine or osteopathy. It's a little more than deep tissue massage therapy. In fact, massage therapy just feels better. I've never been treated by an osteopathic doctor, never needed to. I don't know who it is or what condition I would have to have in order for me to seek out an osteopath, but I never will. Sips, sips. My throat is drying out rather quickly today. This is grape juice, by the way. Where was I? I was riffing on Harriet Hall. But if you are curious about any of these issues, go to Skepdoc, SKEPDOC, and look up one of her blogs on whatever of these fake medical practices you want to find out about. Okay, homeopathy, mid 1800s invention, and I forget the guy that did it. Hahnemann, German doctor, Hanemann, I believe. Chiropractic, an invention in 1895 by David W. Palmer, who right before he came up with this chiropractic was a magnetic healer, which had its heyday back in the late 1800s. Bunk, all of it. Okay. Quacks, all of the practitioners. All right. Whew, ranting is a calorie burner. Good news. GOP MAGA head base actually believes this. Okay. Jeez. And I don't know why I label this good news. It's kind of sad news, but dangerous news. Okay. Tennessee State Senator Janice Bowling, Bowling. She's a Republican, of course, from, let's see, I wrote down the district, Tullahoma. Okay, and a state senator from Tullahoma, Tennessee. She said, quote, schools were allowing children who identify as snakes, cats, whatever. Schools are providing litter boxes. That's where this thing got started. Thank you, Janice, you ignorant woman. Litter boxes for the cats, or if a kid supposedly said, Mrs. Walsh, I think I'm a cat today. Well, that doesn't happen, of course, but Republicans and Fox Spews made a big deal about it. This is part of the right-wing panic over gender dysphoria and anti-transgender kids, which is a political issue for them. It shouldn't be. Okay. The reason that it even got started was because of active shooter lockdowns. When all the kids are locked in one of their classrooms, well, some of the kids have to go to the bathroom. So a teacher took a wastebasket and filled it with cat litter. I don't know where she got it, but it was there just in case some kid who was in the classroom lockdown really had to go to the bathroom. And, they would put the wastebasket with cat litter in a corner of the room and kind of block it off for privacy's sake. And the kid could go in there. That's where this all came from. Ignorant MAGA heads. Okay, bad news. Corporate monster news. Exxon's own scientists, as far back as 1977, knew precisely that carbon dioxide increases in the atmosphere here were causing climate change slash global warming. That those two terms were interchangeable for a long time in environmental circles. Now, the only thing you really hear is climate change, but it's only changing in one direction. Temperatures going up. Okay, now, an article in the magazine Science, which is a highly technical and respected magazine, the January 13th issue this month. It's by G. Supran and S. Ransdorf, and it's volume 379, number 6628. Anyway, I, the Midnight Skeptic, brought this up and talked about it about 5 years ago. This is before the YouTube version of this great show started. Before the YouTube, I was just broadcasting this out of the KPCALP 103.3 studios downtown Petaluma. And one of the topics that I talked about on one of the shows, I don't remember which one, was that Exxon's own scientist knew this and presented their findings to the greedy corporate executives that were running Exxon at that time. And they could either make the choice to devote some of their profits to trying to explore ways that CO2 emissions from burning fossil fuels could be mitigated somehow, or they could go the route of the big tobacco companies who just muddied the waters. Well, they figured that it would be cheaper to just muddy the waters and confuse the public and buy Republicans. Okay, they chose to go down that path. For years, the oil giant Exxon publicly cast doubt on climate science and cautioned against any drastic move away from burning fossil fuels, the main driver of climate change. A public relations program in magazines, newspapers, and even the New York Times, and buying Washington politicians with their lobbyists. Okay, who is the evil creep that set all this in motion? Lee Raymond, Raymond. He became the CEO of the newly merged Mobil Exxon, and they merged in 1999. Okay, pure evil. I hope that his CEO salary bought him as much misery as it could. Okay. Did I say that ranting wears you out, burns calories? I need another sip. Okay. MAGA Heads School District in Ohio objected to a third grader's discussion of Dr. Seuss's book, The Sneetches. I'm familiar with that. I have a copy of it. I've had, over the years, some of my grammar school tutoring students read it, and I've read it to them. The Sneetches is a great book. Okay, and why? I'm off my notes, damn it. Okay, the Sneetches, because the kid related it to racism. They were filming a segment on NPR on how economics is taught in grammar schools. They were at the Olentangy, I'll spell that, capital OLENTANGY, local school district. And I'm not sure the exact name of the school. Maybe, I don't know. Not that important. But the Olentangy local school district assistant communications director, Amanda Beeman, Beeman, said, quote, "I just don't think that this is going to be the discussion that we wanted. So I'm sorry, we're going to have to cut this one off." This third grade kid saw right away that the Sneetches that had stars were being mean to the Sneetches that didn't have stars. He related it right away to how white people lorded over black people in his experience. Okay. Let's see. Okay, Beeman wrote after NPR, National Public Radio, who was taping the third grade economics kids book reading, quote, this is Beeman writing again, "When the book began addressing racism, segregation, and discriminating behaviors, this was not the conversation we had prepped Mrs. Goback, who was the teacher, the students or parents for that would take place. I did not feel that those lessons were the themes students would grasp at that point in the day or in the book." Well, they grasped it perfectly well. The kids did connect the dots to racism. This is a quote from, the kid. Okay, quote, "It's almost like what happened back then, how people were treated, like white people disrespecting black people," said a third grader, name not given, not important. Who was listening as Mrs. Roback read the book to the class. Okay, Betsy Stevenson, who is a professor of public policy at University of Michigan, who recommended the Sneetches to be read for the NPR segment, said, quote, "The red flag issue for the school district is that there is discrimination in the story. I think most children have a natural inclination to think that excluding people based on superficial characteristics is wrong, and then can see how that links to racism. Kids naturally think it is wrong." Beeman worried about parents and school board members and death threat sending MAGA heads. That's who she was worried about. Um, Kids have to be trusted. They are smarter than we think they are. Certainly smarter than MAGA heads. Okay. Whew. Another sip. Okay. The Midnight Skeptic hereby labels this right-wing organization, Moms for Liberty, a racist organization and a borderline terrorist group. They are part of the GOP MAGA head anti-CRT panic. Idiots and thugs. Two women, they look like they were middle-aged, founded this organization back in 2022 in Florida. Florida, God. Okay, now, the Williamson County, Tennessee. Why is Tennessee such an idiot state? Oh, God. Okay, the Williamson County, Tennessee chapter of Moms for Liberty filed a complaint that they say some grade school books violate the state law against teaching that racism is or has ever been a real thing. The complaint lists, now there's a couple of books that they want removed. One of them is Martin Luther King Jr. and the March on Washington. Another book they want removed is Ruby Bridges Goes to School, My True Story, written by Ruby Bridges herself. And another book they want removed, The Story of Ruby Bridges by Robert Coles. Now, their objection to the story of Ruby Bridges is it gives a artistic rendering of these Southern cracker segregationists that were milling around the entrance to the school that Ruby Bridges was going to go to, and they looked mean. Well, they were mean, and the Moms for Liberty don't want their grammar school little snowflake kids to see that there are bad racist adults, a lot of them in the country, especially in the South, and I call them MAGA heads. Okay, there's another book that Moms for Liberty objected to having in grammar school libraries in Tennessee. Separate is Never Equal by Duncan Tonatiu. I'll spell that last name for you. I don't know quite how it's pronounced. Capital Tonatiuh. Time check. Okay, I'm good. Okay, Robin E. Steenman. She's the Tennessee Moms for Liberty chapter president. She's the chair of the Moms for Liberty for Williamson County. She filed it on June 30th, 2021. The nebulous concepts of privilege, quote unquote, guilt, quote unquote, and discomfort, quote unquote, based on race or sex are mentioned in her complaint and in the Tennessee anti-CRT law. Moms for Liberty, I wrote down here, founded in Florida in 2022. They are definitely a far right radical group of ignorant people. Okay. Whew. Okay. Bad, stupid news. Okay. Alabama. Oh, God. Alabama Attorney General Steve Marshall said that women who take abortion pills, which would be a combination of mifepristone and misoprostol, could be prosecuted under an old law in Alabama against chemical endangerment, which was originally intended to punish women who use meth and endanger their pregnancy, their child inside their uterus. Both abortion drugs that I just mentioned are now illegal in Alabama. New topic. Does the image of Allah create upset? Oh, I was in my notes here. Does the image of Allah create upsetty poo in the Muslim community? Enough to get a professor fired? Hamline University, which is a liberal arts university in Minnesota, St. Paul, Minnesota, fired Erica Lopez Prater as an adjunct art history professor. Before she showed the images of the Prophet Muhammad, she warned her class that she would show these images, which incidentally were commissioned by a 14th century caliph in Baghdad. Okay, I'm off my notes. She warned the class that she would show images of holy figures such as Buddha and the Prophet Muhammad. She offered potentially offended students the chance to leave the room without any penalty if it would upset them. Okay. 14th century images of Muhammad, which are what these pictures were. A student complained, a Muslim student. Teacher was fired. Blasphemy. And there was a mixed reaction within the Islamic community. CAIR, the chapter there in St. Paul. Oh, boy. I'm off my notes, and I didn't write down what CAIR stands for. Council on Islamic Relations. I don't know what the A stands for. But anyway, they agreed with the firing of the teacher. There was a number of professors of the Muslim faith from other institutions and other Islamic organizations who said that the professor should not be fired. Well, okay. This whole business of blasphemy, it's a way to stifle thought, imagination, creativity, doing what's right for mankind. There should be no such thing as blasphemy. Okay, now Today is Martin Luther King Jr. holiday. It's a federal holiday. Excuse me, my throat's drying out again. Okay. It's January 16th, Monday, the third Sunday of January, which is designated as Martin Luther King Jr. birthday holiday. Okay, in the 60s, and I guess a little way into the 70s, FBI Director J. Edgar Hoover did everything he could to destroy King, very especially, when it seemed the civil rights leader was ready to move on to workers' rights. The FBI tried to use King's infidelities as weapons against him. They continuously spied on him, tapped his phones, surveilled him, did a stakeout around his house to see who was coming and going. Those were the horrible old days of the FBI. Nowadays, I'm not an expert on what the FBI is doing now, but I trust them more than MAGA heads trust them, who are trying to defund them. Boy, is that ironic. The MAGA head, stupid GOP Republicans scream that Democrats just want to defund the police. Well, the FBI is police, and the Republican Party wants to defund them, among other law enforcement organizations, Department of Homeland Security, the IRS. And this is not in my notes, but it just popped into my head. The Republican Party wants to defund the IRS. There was a big chunk of money designated for the IRS for extra tax. Oh boy, I'm having a freeze on the name. Checking them all out, because a goodly proportion of the wealthy, the uber wealthy, cheat on their taxes, and others, I guess in semi-legal fashion, pay less than they really should. So audits, that's the word I'm looking for. But Republicans don't want that. We don't want our rich patrons to pay more money. And then they're making up stories. They always do. Making up stories that this extra money going to the IRS is just going to hurt the poor people and middle class. Well, it's not. Typical Republican lies. Okay, I'm way off my notes. Okay, the FBI is staking him out because J. Edgar Hoover, being the committed anti-communist fighter that he was, that's what he was primarily worried about. The Reds are coming, the Reds are coming, the communists are coming. And he was also not very concerned about civil rights, although he was against it. But his main thing was getting those communists. And he knew in his own heart that the Reverend Martin Luther Jr. Reverend Martin Luther King Jr. was a communist, and he called him specifically a Marxist. They continuously spied on him. JFK, John F. Kennedy, and Lyndon Baines Johnson, while both of them were concerned with improving civil rights, they tacitly approved these attacks against Martin Luther King Jr., even as they personally favored the greater civil rights movement. I'm not sure whether it was their personal fears of J. Edgar Hoover himself, or whether they really thought that Martin Luther King Jr. was just going too far with his demands for civil rights and workers' rights and all of that kind of stuff. Okay, there's a documentary, and it's entitled MLK / FBI in parentheses 2000. And it's streaming on Hulu. You know, I don't get it. I don't get Hulu, so I'm not going to see it. But this information was from a review of the documentary and in the newspaper. So, you know, I would like to see it, but I'm not going to go really out of my way to subscribe to Hulu. Okay, now, today, the Republican Party, the MAGA head racists, are in a moral panic about CRT. And this is fueled by Christopher Rufo, RUFO. He is a right-wing slimeball that Bloatbag Jr. of Florida, the governor, has just appointed to the Board of Trustees of New College of Florida, which is called the most progressive public college in the state of Florida. Bloatbag Jr. has also appointed Matthew Spaulding, capital SPAULDING, who is a dean of Hilldale College, a far-right conservative evangelical college in Michigan, and it has close ties to the orange sociopathic Bloatbag. Rufo's plan, and I have to assume it's Bloatbag Jr.'s plan, is to transform New College into a public version of Hilldale. This is located, New College is located in Sarasota, Florida. For Bloatbag Jr., it's a plan to crush any hint of progressivism in public education. Teachers are all just grooming our kids. They're indoctrinating them. They're going to make them kind. They're going to make them accepting of their other kids. They're going to make our kids so they won't bully other kids who are different from them. That's what Bloatbag Jr. has a plan for. That's what public education is to him. It's just a grooming institution. No. Okay, I'm off my notes. Okay, Martin Luther King Jr. birthday holiday was opposed. Who do you think opposed it? Okay. By the GOP and conservatives when it was proposed first in 1979. Stevie Wonder, the singer, released the single Happy Birthday to popularize this effort to make Martin Luther King Jr. Day a national paid holiday. Senators Jesse Helms and John Porter East, they're both Republicans of North Carolina, led the opposition with a filibuster, an actual talking filibuster, which they used to do back in the good old days, dare I say. They called him a Marxist and a communist and against the Vietnam War. On November 2nd, 1983, Ronald Reagan signed a bill making the third Monday in January the holiday. The first to be celebrated was on January 20th of 1986. Not every state went along with it. On May 2nd of the year 2000, South Carolina was the last state to recognize the day as a paid holiday. A little sidebar here. Arizona lost the Super Bowl 27 because of GOP Republican dithering and hemming and hawing over this issue of the Martin Luther King Jr. birthday holiday. And that Super Bowl was held in the Rose Bowl in Pasadena instead of Phoenix, Arizona. Okay. MAGA Head, Moms for Liberty, and other far right-winger racists want... okay, I've already mentioned this, actually. They want Martin Luther King Jr. and the March on Washington, which is a kid's book, removed from the libraries. And let's see, what did I do? I thought I had... Oh, okay. A number of states down in the South and run by MAGA Head Republicans incorporate Martin Luther King Jr.'s birthday holiday with other things. Some of them add on and civil rights holiday in some way, shape, or form. A number of them incorporate it with Robert E. Lee birthday celebration. Okay. I don't know the exact number, but there's more than 4 or 5. Okay. And with that, it's been an hour-long journey. It's only 54 minutes, but I'm going to play out my out music right now anyway. Round of applause for this effort to start with. You have been listening to The Midnight Skeptic on KPCA LP, Petaluma, California. And we're at 103.3 on the FM dial and worldwide at www.kpca.fm. Support community radio at patreon.com/Petaluma Community Access. And remember, Think critically, think logically, but live joyously and, most importantly, pet your cats. There was a study that I just ran across. I didn't write it down in my notes, but it's about pets. Mainly, it was about dogs and whether dogs slept in the same bed as their owners. And it's a good thing. It provides health benefits. And it mentioned briefly in passing cats as well. And my own cat, Sasha, sleeps on my bed at night. She sleeps down at the foot of the bed. And I really believe that the little things that get caught in her fur protect me from allergies. I've never had allergies. I'm relatively healthy, except for this last little bit of autoimmune, autoimmune hemolytic anemia that I had. It's being dealt with. But I think me being around pets most of my life, mostly cats. I had a dog when I was real little, grammar school. That helped me just playing outside and getting used to all these microorganisms. Okay. This article from the New York Times, a column written by Michelle Goldberg. She's become one of my favorite columnists, and I see her every now and then on MSNBC being interviewed. But the title of this column, Plotting the Hostile Takeover of a Liberal College, and it's about New College of Florida and Hilldale. I will talk to you a little bit more next week about Hilldale College, what right-wing creeps they are. So anyway, I will record this at some point during the week of January 23rd through the 26th for broadcast on the next show on the 29th, Sunday in January at the usual time. So until then, it's been fun, hasn't it?